umpire mag feed, and I can't wait to go across the pond to listen to Across the Pod, fresh out of Wales. Special stuff. Cheers.
Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Patriots fan Shane Brennan as we look ahead to the team's upcoming season. Shane discusses the arrival of AJ Brown.
You're in a system where Jalen Hurts throws the ball 17 to 21 times a game. Drake Maye is going to throw the ball at least 30 times a game.
I asked Shane about the off-the-field drama this off-season. Do you think it has any impact on the players? And much more, as Shane predicts the team's overall record in our win-loss or tie segment. Hope you all enjoy.
What a segue. What a segue. I got to give it to you. You're the pro.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am as ever your host today in Andy Davis, and as you can see from the title, we are doing our next team season preview, and the team in focus is the New England Patriots. Before we bring our guest onto the show today, this podcast is sponsored by fantasygameday.app. Use code Andy5 at checkout for money back off your first paid lineup. Now with me, I've got a returning guest, returning to the show, but making his debut on the season previews. Back on the show is a sports writer for the Irish Independent, but also he hosts the Irish NFL show and also the Pat's Pals podcast with another friend of the show in Sky Pank. Back on the show today is Shane Brennan. Shane, it is great to have you back on.
It's great to see you, Andy. I'm looking forward to getting into the much maligned New England Patriots. Everybody talking them down. They look at the schedule this year compared to last year. They look at the Rossini stuff that happened in the offseason, and everybody I've listened to is almost assuming the Patriots won't make the playoffs, and I think that'll be a nice way of getting into the conversation. But no, it's great to see you. Great to see your face before we eventually link up in Australia, of all places. I'm looking forward to that as well. So that should be a fun time, as I'm sure this podcast will be a fun time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you put a Instagram story up calling it the shortest long trip?
The longest short trip I'll ever do, because I'm flying. I'm basically staying in Melbourne for 5 nights, and which means that the total time I'll be in Australia is about 6 days, and the amount of days I'll be spending traveling is 4 days. So that's quite a long short trip. You know what I mean? Like everybody is looking at. I was just talking about this in the office the other day, and I was going through my itinerary, and people were like, would you not like go somewhere else in Australia? I said, no, honestly, I want to get home in time to watch Red Zone. And the flights were in a way that I could get home. I could watch the Patriots beat the Seahawks, hopefully on the Wednesday or the Thursday. I think it will be Australian time. We could watch the game, and I'm back home and all. Like, I can watch the first week of Red Zone in my house in Dublin. So that's kind of what I was going for. You know, the way that the NFL poisons our brains, we don't want to see, you know, all these beautiful places in Australia. Let's just get me home to get me a bit of Scott Hansen on the screen. That's what I want.
Oh, you mentioned Scott Hansen. He actually appeared on your show the other day. I saw a little social media clip of him appearing on the Irish NFL show.
Yeah. Well, about a year we've had him on now. In fairness, he's a busy guy. I think one of the guys is kind of sharing everything. But I think it's like it's funny when we get to the point where we really start getting excited to the NFL coming back. And this time of year is so unusual, and it's probably the time of year when I watch the most movies, because the GA season, for those who know the Irish sporting calendar, Gaelic football and hurling ends at the end of July. There's no soccer on because the World Cup is done. The Premier League isn't back. There's no NFL. It's like there's no sport on. And I end up losing my mind watching all these movies. I've gone on a Christopher Nolan marathon. I don't really watch movies because, you know, usually I don't get 3 hours to myself at any point of any day. So I'm kind of lose my mind now. And I'm just really, really, really looking forward to having proper football coming back. I was watching the highlights of the Giants-Broncos game from last year when I was on the treadmill earlier. And I was actually watching it, and I wanted to feel something. I was like, just throw the ball. What are you doing? How can the Giants throw this game away? And all this kind of thing. So I can't wait for that to actually be real in the next couple of weeks' time.
Oh, me too. And I can't wait to, as you said before, the link up in Melbourne. It's going to be interesting. I mean, there'll be a game on the day before, 10:30 in the morning, both days, which I'm looking forward to an early start. I'm looking forward to watching an NFL game that time of morning. I really am. I think it's going to be unique. And I think NFL should bring that to London as well. Get all games on at 10:30 in the morning.
And actually, that's an aspect I actually didn't think about, that when the Patriots play the Seahawks, which will be on in, I imagine, various bars, and in the NFL, sort of they're doing like a watch zone or a mix zone thing in Melbourne. That'll be at 10:30 on the Thursday morning Australian time as well. I never even thought about that. Yeah, that's an interesting one. And in terms of how does the body feel? But it's funny because like I have a mate of mine who lives in Melbourne, and he's saying like, and he's a West Ham fan, and he's saying like the whole, he's a West Ham fan and a Boston Celtics fan. So the way he watches American sport and Premier League is completely mind wrecking in terms of time zones. So the fact that the people who are actually going to this game are making it at 10:30 in the morning, it's like there's no give. There's no like, here's one for you Australian fans who have to live in this incredible time warp to watch our sport. No, you're gonna have to come into the Melbourne Cricket Ground at 10:30 in the morning, to watch what is, in fairness, one of the best games that you could possibly put on international slate between the 49ers and the Rams. So yeah, it's gonna be a good crack.
And also for them, it's going to be on a weekday, so they're going to have to take off annual leave. You may even see a school trip pop up in the stadium. It's a weird one where I don't think there's ever been an international game done on a weekday, or maybe apart from, I think there was a Monday night game in Mexico, I think, one year.
They tend to do some of the Mexican games on Monday night, but like that's, I know it's international. Mexico is, of course, a different country to the US, but in terms of logistics, it's quite like it's easier. It's almost easier for a team from California to go to Mexico than it is to go to New York. So that's probably slightly different in comparison to going to another continent. In fairness, I think the Brazil games have been Friday nights, haven't they? The last couple of years when they were on week one, they were Friday nights. Was it the Chiefs and the Chargers played last year in Sao Paulo, and then the previous year was the Eagles and Packers. I think they were on Friday nights because I remember staying up for those. But yeah, but the fact that it's Friday night is almost like a weekend junior. The fact that it's like, a Thursday night football. This is when the Europa League is supposed to be played. We should be watching Tottenham Hotspur this time, not the LA Rams. Come on.
And one more point before we do go on to the Patriots is, like you, I've got a similarly, similar situation in terms of, I've got a friend who lives in Sydney, so I'm spending about a week and a half in Sydney, seeing my mate, and then I'm making the trip to Melbourne. But I think I've mentioned this on the show. I have to leave the game 2.5, 3 hours in to get back for a wedding in the UK. So,
when's your flight out of Melbourne Airport?
3:30 p.m.
I would just stop. Mine's at 10:30 in the night, so at least I'm not. Jesus, fair play. Well, look, I mean, if this electrical substation's got anything to do with it, that game is going to be done and dusted by the time it gets to halftime. The Rams could end up doing what they did to the Jaguars in Wembley last year. We were chatting on there, even the different approaches they have coming into it. The fact that the Rams are arriving the day beforehand, playing the game and heading straight home. The Niners are spending the week in Australia to sort of adjust to how things work and adjust their bodies, etc. Which, to be honest with you, the more I think about it, I think it's just an excuse for the 49ers players to train not beside that electrical substation in Santa Clara. Maybe that's the real reason behind it. Nothing to do with any sports science or anything. I think they're just trying to get away from that thing because the sometimes we talk about this in Irish sport a lot in terms of like whether curses exist, and curses exist not because they happen, but because they're believed. And I just wonder, regardless of the actual science behind the substation thing in Santa Clara, whether this is a curse which exists because it's believed and the players are believing it. So maybe them getting away from for a week in Australia is probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know about what's happened there with the substation, but I'm just hoping that you get a real show from McCaffrey and Kieran Williams. If you can just get them, forget Stafford and forget Brock Purdy, just get the ball to the running back every play. That will make the game last a lot quicker, and maybe I'll see 3 quarters before I have to leave. There'll be stuff going on before the game on the pod. There'll be practice sessions, what would be only with the Niners. I was kind of thinking, who do I pick, Rams or Niners? But the Rams have sort of made the decision for us. Go to the Niners practice, and then I'll get to do some stuff for the game. But no, and I am going to introduce a new series to the show on socials. I'm not sure what the name's going to be called yet, but it's going to be called. It's based around a little quiz in the press boxes of all the international games. So expect to see many returning faces on the show, and I may even try and get you involved, Shane, for the Australia one. Some sort of quiz, and I'm going to try and name a champion at the end of it to see who is the overall NFL International Series pub quiz master. But no, let's head into the ins and outs of the Patriots off-season. So the Patriots saw quite a few players leave in the off-season. This includes the likes of Jack Giddens, friend of the show, as well as Clivon Chason, Jaden Hawkins, Austin Hooper, Kyrus Tonga. As well as this, we saw the likes of players such as Tommy DeVito re-signed with the Patriots, as well as the likes of Jack Westover. And then you brought in via free agency the likes of Romeo Dobbs, Kevin Byard, Julian Hill, former Dolphin, Reggie Gillum, Elijah Vera Tucker, KJ Britt, Casey Rogers. But you also saw the likes of Antonio Gibson, Stephon Diggs, and Fernie Jennings all leave, as well as Joshua Dobbs. You saw Elijah Mitchell leave, as well as Otis Reese. And you also saw Garrett Bradbury traded away to the Chicago Bears in exchange for a 5th-round selection in next year's draft. And then, speaking of the draft, in the 1st round, you took tackle from Utah, Caleb Lomu, 28th overall, which you got via the Texans, via the Bills. You also took, in the 2nd round, Gabe Jacobs. In the 3rd round, you took Eli Raridan, Caron Prunty in the 5th round, Demetrius Crownover and Nabdi Obazor in the 6th round, and Jam Miller, Baron Morton, and Quintavious Hutchins in the 7th round. Shane, as a whole, as a Patriots fan, your take on your team's offseason?
I think the first thing to talk about is the change in that wide receiver core, because I think it's fair to say that the wide receivers that Drake Maye was working with were individually streaky, but because their streaks never coincided to have a dip all at the same time, that there was never really an incredible down game, with the exception of the actual Super Bowl. But I think that was more down to the offensive line not holding up their end of the bargain. It was a pretty weak offensive line. And the way that Drake Maye just took hit after hit after hit. AJ Brown, of course, being the headliner who's come in over the course of the offseason. It took ages for that news to actually get in. And then eventually it got over the line. But I'm just looking at the unit now. I mean, a lot of people are worried about Stephon Diggs leaving and just what he meant to the team last year. And that's true. I remember talking to him and getting a sense that he was a big game player. We remembered the performance he had in Buffalo in what was one of the signature moments of the season last year, in the road win against the Bills. But Stephon Diggs was streaky in a way that he had more quiet games than he had good games. And that is true. I don't think we're going to see that from AJ Brown this year. I don't think we're going to see any, I guess, there's always levels of inconsistency, but I think AJ Brown is going to come with the higher floor and higher ceiling as a true wide receiver one for Drake Maye to target. And then you keep in the fact that Romeo Dobbs has come in. I think that's a nice speedy option to have in there. Kayshon Boutte is still in there, somebody whose individual connection with Drake Maye improved over the course of the season. Hunter Henry, we know, has been in there a while. He's actually a bit of a worry for me in terms of his age profile and the miles on the clock, and just the fact that he's had to carry a lot of what the Patriots offense have been doing the last few years, even before Drake Maye and before Mike Vrabel took charge as well. You're looking at players and you can't automatically expect the same level of performance the previous year. Are there one or two guys you think that might end up beginning some sort of downslope? And in which case, you mentioned there, the draft pick, Eli Raridan from Notre Dame, coming into the 3rd round, a top 100 pick. It'll be interesting to see what way that he will develop. I think that's going to be an interesting character arc to look for over the course of the season. But Henry has been sort of Drake Maye's crutch, in that he's the guy, Hunter Henry is the guy that when Drake Maye can't find an out, he finds Hunter Henry and just gives him the ball and gets maybe 3 or 4 yards. That was a bigger crutch, in fairness, 2 seasons ago in Drake Maye's first season than it is now. Or certainly last season, but I'm just afraid of that still being the case. But with Kayshon Boutte in there, somebody that he's familiar with, and 2 really, really strong improvements in Romeo Dobbs and AJ Brown, and there's still plenty of other guys around there that, when injuries come in, Matt Collins, a guy that everybody finds annoying, still a decent option to have coming down the stretch, as I imagine he might need to be playing later on in the year. Ramondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson are still a decent 1-2 punch if both of them can just keep a hold of the ball. Ball security being a big thing there. Drake Maye is still going to be improved. And Will Campbell as well. A lot of people have come into this, and yes, they've looked at the fact that you mentioned there in the draft, they brought in Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle from Utah. They decided to also go in the 6th round to bring in another offensive tackle in Demetrius Cronover. Yeah, TBD to see what way he will actually be used. There's a good chance that, after this preseason, that he might necessarily be seen as one of the top guys. But regardless, yes, Garrett Bradbury's gone. Not somebody who I wanted to see lead the building, but I think everyone seems to almost come to this conclusion that Will Campbell and Elijah Vera-Tucker on the left-hand side is a weakness. And the fact is, in the playoffs, they were a weakness, but they were a weakness against some of the best defenses in the league last year when they played against the Chargers, the Texans, and the Broncos before going and eventually being properly done in by the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are one of the best planned defenses in the league. But I think you have to remember, during that whole period, Will Campbell was injured. It was hidden. We didn't know about it. And I remember, and I think you were there with me as well, when we were in the hotel in Santa Clara, and when all the Patriots players were there, we could all sort of get media availability. And Will Campbell did not look, he looked like he wanted the earth to open up and swallow him whole. He looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked like he was feeling incredibly nervous about the game, incredibly nervous of being in front of people, and he played very nervous. And he played nervous because he was injured. He's not going to be injured this year in what is, in fact, is a very tough first stretch of 4 games. Elijah Vera-Tucker, I think, needs to prove it. But Will Campbell is somebody who I believe in. So I'm taking the offense there, I guess, on your question. But in terms of the pieces there, I don't see any regression. There's nobody who's left the building where I think that could be critical to our chances. And I'm looking forward to seeing how AJ Brown in particular plays out.
Yeah, with Brown, I mean, we've seen quarterbacks in the past, they have maybe a tough couple of years, their first 2 years, and then you get to the 3rd year and you see them, they get a number 1 receiver and they elevate their game. You think about when Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs. And I know I slated him quite a lot, but when Tua got Tyreek Hill, he did improve. Not that I particularly rated him, but Tua was someone who did improve after Tyreek Hill joined the franchise. And you can even argue when AJ Brown himself joined the Eagles, Jalen Hurts raised his game. Does that almost give you confidence in a way that Drake Maye is in his 3rd year, but he's already in his 3rd year. He's going into his 3rd year. He's won a division. He's won an AFC. So he's done all this stuff already without a true elite wide receiver 1. Of course, Hunter Henry was his number 1 target and a great tight end. But in terms of that wide receiver position, you're looking at the guys he's thrown to before. No one's been in that top echelon of receivers. But now you've got AJ Brown, when he is, fully on it, which I think he is. I think the whole Hurts thing was kind of a distraction. A guy who's coming in as a boyhood Patriots fan and on his day, one of the best receivers in the league. That must be exciting for you, the fact that Drake Maye's already done all this stuff and then he's gone out and now he's got a wide receiver 1.
The one thing I did find funny with the whole AJ Brown thing, do you remember when he started putting up pictures of himself and apparently pictures of him as a kid wearing a Patriots jersey, and it was clearly fake because it was a Nike jersey back when Reebok made them, and like, come on, man, come on. And he started doing all these interviews being like, even when I got home from practice with the Eagles, I have this Patriots rug on my floor. That's my team, man. That's my team. I actually believe that one. So I'm definitely glad to have him in the building. And look, you look at what AJ Brown was to the Eagles and just the way he was used there. I mean, the AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Eagles melodrama is not untypical of the Eagles. They're not a team with Nick Sirianni in charge that just seems like they're calm heads involved. And that's very typical or reflective of the city of Philadelphia. And hey, it brought them to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, so maybe it kind of works for them. But I think you put AJ Brown outside of a system when we remember a system that didn't rely on him, that didn't give him the ball much. You're in a system where Jalen Hurts throws the ball 17 to 21 times a game. Drake Maye is going to throw the ball at least 30 times a game, potentially maybe not 40, but 30 to 35 times a game. That just means that by law of averages, you're going to get the ball more. You're going to get more chances. You're going to get more chance to be the number 1 guy. And a true number 1 guy, like you were saying, when Tyreek Hill came into the Dolphins, you gave Tua the true number one guy to target. This is now clearly, there's no messing around. The wide receiver core the last couple of years, you almost had as many twos as you wanted. So that was your chorus. Do your best to them. Now you have a top guy. And I think, I'm confident in this. I'm confident in Drake Maye's progression. I'm confident in his work mentality. I'm confident in his confidence and the nature of it, that it's not cockiness. It's still grounded. It's still work-based. It's still team-focused. Even the way he was talking after the Super Bowl loss last year, you could tell he took it hard, but immediately there was no fingers of blame. He took the responsibility on himself, even though, you can imagine there are other quarterbacks in that situation would have chewed out the offensive line. They were ran through like a train hitting a cake. It was crazy. The way that offensive line tried to hold up in the Super Bowl. So you put all that together and just the AJ Brown situation. People are like, what about the personality of AJ Brown? How's it going to fit in there? And I would have been more confident making this point last year before a few pictures from the state of Arizona became online. But Mike Vrabel, as a football coach and as a football culture guy, is just different to Nick Sirianni. It's a different setup, and I think that he will have a better control. They'll give him more of what he wants, but get more out of him at the same time. Keep him on the team focus page. Let's be fair about this. As much as the scandal took so much of the oxygen in a certain part of the year, Vrabel is still a football guy for football players, and football players love him, and they work with him, and they work hard for him. And, if Vrabel falls out with people, he doesn't fall out with his players. He doesn't even fall out with his coaches. It's what happened at the end of Tennessee. He fell out with the front office, which isn't happening here. You know what I mean? Where there are other coaches when their tenure ends in a certain place, it's because of a bad relationship with a player or a sense that their coaching has gone stale. Look at Sean McDermott leaving the Buffalo Bills, for instance. There's a situation where his coaching seems to go stale, and you're almost like, you're not getting the most out of Josh Allen here. You got to move. That's not the case with Mike Vrabel at all. You bring in AJ Brown into that. I think he is not some brat who is uncontrollable. He doesn't have too many off the field stuff. It's mainly him whinging that he's not being treated with the respect by the team that he's on enough. And I just think that he will get the respect, that he will get the ball. And I think be interesting now once the preseason game kicks off against the Colts. I think it's the first one that the Patriots are playing. Be interesting once that kicks off just to see if May and Brown are on the field at the same time, if they're allowed to build up that rapport, because they need to build it up quickly before they have to go to Seattle on week 1. But I think they can, and I think that even you look at the way that Josh McDaniel is going to draw up the plays, that he's gotten a guy that he will like to work with, and he'll like working with him, and he'll use him, and will use him in the aerial game. They're not a run-heavy team in the way that the Eagles are. The way the Eagles, Jalen Hurts does a lot of runs, and Saquon Barkley carried the team to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The Patriots aren't like that. It's aerial offense. It's the talent of Drake Maye. It's particularly when deep passes. And what does AJ Brown like to do? He likes to get past for 30, 40 yards and being the headline guy. So I think it's a better fit than in Philadelphia. And I think that's why a lot of the issues that he comes in with are not a concern for me and something I'm excited to see.
Yeah, the issues aren't really one for me, because we talked about Will Campbell in media events, and that explains a lot about how he was, because he wasn't the best person to interview. I couldn't even use his question on socials. It was that bad of an answer. But with AJ Brown, I managed to have the fortune of interviewing him the year before that in New Orleans, and he was one of the nicest guys I've interviewed doing NFL media. He was very good with the people, very nice guy, and I got no indication from him, seeing him in person, talking to me, but also the other people around, that he was ever a concern. Whereas with other players who've got the reputation of that for the Eagles, I'm not going to say which player it is, that were exactly how you think they were and weren't as nice. So AJ Brown, I don't think it's a problem at all. And I think you're right. I do think maybe the fact, it was run heavy, maybe that was causing a problem for him. But now, he's going to go to a team where he's going to be number one. And the fact that May threw for all those yards and touchdowns, one vote off MVP without a true number one, it has to be exciting going forward for May having Brown in the team now. But you touched on the offensive line before. This was not, I don't think, a line that struggled just in the playoffs. I think they were May was the fourth most sacked quarterback in the NFL in the regular season. And then obviously we all saw what happened against the Seahawks. And like you said, it's against a a tough defense, the dark side, and and even look at the Texas defense and the Chargers defense. They were keeping them in games when both their quarterbacks weren't exactly excelling. But of course, now you go into a situation where you're playing against tougher opponents, which I know we've alluded to, and I like to kind of mention it, so I kind of like have a little banter with Patriots, because it was an easier schedule. But the fact that, is that a concern? You mentioned players coming in via Tucker and everyone else that's there now, and Caleb Lomu. Is it a concern for you going into this season, the O-line, or are you confident that with the additions you've made in the off-season at that position, that you can actually improve on that and make sure that May isn't one of the top sacked quarterbacks next season or this season?
It is a concern. I think in the offense side of things, as much as I think there's signs of improvement, and Will Campbell I think will improve, as I was mentioning earlier. Like, the offensive line as a unit is a worry, and just the nature of a lot of those sacks that Drake Maye took, I think, it wasn't always that he was holding on to the ball too long. He actually got better at that bit, and he got better as well as at being somebody who made the right decisions in terms of keeping hold of the ball, and when he decided to run out left or run out right, he does that a lot, and he improved in that in his second year compared to his first year. It's a concern for me mainly because we've seen happen a lot how if somebody's getting sacked a lot, do you become injury prone? I'm always banging on the Bengals that they don't invest enough in their offensive line and protecting the greatest asset they've had probably in franchise history in Joe Burrow. And he takes a lot of heat. He does very well with it, but there's only so much you can do to protect yourself. And if you get hit, well, then, is there an injury concern? It was a big thing with the Miami Dolphins with Tua getting so many head injuries. Something I was afraid of with the way that Drake Maye played football in his first year. There was a lot of times when Drake Maye took the ball outside of the pocket where he got into tackles in a way that made him prone to head injuries, which improved a lot in the second year, but it's not gone. And you know what I mean? Like the problems with the offensive line isn't necessarily about, well, it's a 3rd and down and Drake Maye isn't going to get a chance to get a pass off in a certain time. If he's taking 4 or 5 sacks a game, yes, it's disruptive. He's been able to put out long passes to make up for it. It's the injury risk to Drake Maye, which is a remarkable concern, because the drop down to that is Tommy DeVito. Great guy, someone who I really enjoyed all the gabagool when they came into New York. But I don't want to see him playing for the New England Patriots. Nothing against him personally, because I want Drake Maye to be playing as much as possible. And the schedule as well. We might talk about the schedule separately, but it is worth saying that as much as the schedule seemed easy, or was easier and seemed easy on paper last year, a lot of the teams that the Patriots did play against were very sack-heavy, front-loaded defenses that just naturally put the offensive line under pressure. The Browns, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Bengals not so much. The Giants in that Monday Night Football game, they were really trying to target the line up front. So a lot of those teams that aren't good teams overall, but their strength was in the front guys. Myles Garrett got a couple of really big hits against Drake Maye. It's one of the reasons why his stats were so high, is that Myles Garrett had a very good game for the Browns that particular week. Whereas the defense that the Patriots play against this year are slightly different. So maybe that just makes the challenge a little different. But it's very clear, like, if I was a defensive coordinator for the Seahawks or for anybody else playing against the Patriots, I would still be targeting that offensive line, because until they prove that they're good enough, they're not good enough. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. So, yeah, that's a big concern. The skill positions in the offense, I don't have any question marks over, but certainly the offensive line, they have a lot to prove. I think that's the best way to put it.
Absolutely, and I think, like you said, my fear for Joe Burrow is always, is he going to last in the league, because of just how bad the O-line has been. Although I will say the O-line is improving there, and I think it's the first time in his career that all 5 of the starters from the year before return, and I think they got a bit of momentum towards the end of that season in O-line. But one thing that did get momentum in the off-season was a certain off-the-field scandal. Now, if you haven't heard...
What a segue. What a segue. I got to give it to you. You're the pro. Right, see? Momentum. Whoa. I'll give it. That was good. I like that.
That was not even planned. That was not even in my running order.
Off the dome, man. Off the dome. I like that.
Yes. If you haven't heard what's happened, I mean, where have you been? You must be living in the rock. It was everywhere. If you are following any sort of social media page that involves the NFL, this story came up, the Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini scandal. And if you haven't heard of it, then do Google it and pause this podcast and have a look at it, because it's far too long a scandal to be discussing, because this podcast will last 2 hours if we talk about that scandal for too long. But in terms of that now, Vrabel has learned from the best in being able to navigate away from scandals. You think about Deflategate, Spygate. Bill Belichick was a master of, the onto Cincinnati quote he had famously. This is the guy that had scandal after scandal, but they seem to always manage to find a way to overcome this. They either reached or won a Super Bowl, I think it was, after they had all the Deflategate stuff. I think it was the same season.
They won the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, so they won that even after all the scandal that went on. And Mike Vrabel has been, obviously, I don't think he's there at that time, but he's been there in the past under Belichick. He's learned from the best in being able to handle that. Do you think it has any impact on the players, or do you think they're all professionals, it happened off the field, it's not going to get in their heads at all this season?
I think the first thing is that it won't have zero impact. It's going to have some impact in some ways in terms of just how you deal with each other as human beings, because Vrabel is a culture guy. He's as I was mentioning earlier, he's a football guy, and how he deals with his players. It was a huge part of how the Patriots were successful last year. And if you wanted to throw it at him, or if two players who are disgruntled were throwing each other, being like, who is this guy telling me about what it means to be a Patriot, what it means to be honorable when he's doing what he's doing? And look, like, okay, right. Let's break this down into a couple of things. Let's compare this to the Belichick era scandals, right? The Belichick era scandals were 100% about what was happening on the field. Deflategate, are you cheating when it comes to how you throw the ball? Spygate, are you cheating in terms of how you are spying on the other sideline, right? This scandal is not that. It's got nothing to do with football. There's no repercussions from the NFL. Other fans will have a crack with it, but it's a sex scandal. It's not a footballing scandal. It's not relevant to the players. It is something that's in their private lives, but it's kind of even just been made very public and got a huge amount of airtime because of the time of year it went public. And what that means is that once the football starts, the football takes over. I think we see this a lot with when the World Cup was on. So much of the build-up was about the off-field scandal around things that FIFA were doing, or referees not being allowed into the country, or in terms of the case of Qatar in 2022, the people who've died building the stadiums. But once we start watching the football, that's all anybody cared about, and we're all watching the games. And this scandal, to me, has that feel, and that it was everywhere in the run to the draft, and the fact that probably not great that Vrabel couldn't make it to the Saturday of the draft because he was in counseling. A huge amount of personal turmoil there. But by the time football kicks off, it doesn't really matter. It's not like the Deflategate thing when Brady was suspended for a few games, or the Spygate thing when the integrity of the game was over. So I think this is one that is salacious and that it grabs more headlines, but on the underground impact is not going to be as big. That might change if something new comes out. And Mike Florio, and I think it's just him almost trying to speak into existence because he's having a bit of crack with it, suggests that Rossini would, say her side of the story in a great interview with Oprah that comes out the day before the Seahawks play the Patriots in week 1. Bullshit. That's just not going to happen. The only kind of footballing aspect is, of course, that for anybody who might have worked with him in Tennessee, and even in the last year at the Patriots, a sense of, well, what information were you passing off to this journalist who you had a relationship with, which may not have been fully proper. But to what extent that really becomes a problem in the dressing room, it's kind of an individual case unless you have an individual gripe. So I'm not particularly worried about it. The fans, look, I can already see in my mind's eye the Jets fans and the signs are going to have drawn up when it comes in, and the disgusting slogans and the way it's going to fill up on social media. But that's not going to get into the dressing room, I don't think. I don't think it's going to affect how they're training. It's not affecting how they're training now. The football is already starting to take over. The biggest things people are going to be talking about the Patriots after they play the Seahawks or the Steelers is, are they frauds or are they for real? And Drake Maye's play on the field. It's not the same as other scandals and other things which have happened when there's a real deep on-field impact. And look, I know you're saying, look, Belichick was great at deflecting from them, but Belichick used them because he was able to say to the team, they're coming after us because we're the best. Vrabel can't do that because he's like, well, guys, we're all going to go out and we're going to prove them wrong because I cheated on my wife. That doesn't work like that. So, it's a very different thing. So I don't think he's going to be dipping into the Belichick how to deal with the scandal playbook either. But I just fundamentally think that the oxygen this got happened because it happened at the time of year that it did. And just the fact that as a journalist, it was a well-known person. It wasn't like it was, a janitor or something like that he was having at a fair. And the fact that he wasn't there on the side of the draft is concerning in terms of the nature of how the personal life affects his ability to do his job. But I think now once we get into September, I just think that it'll become not ancient history, but certainly history.
Yeah, maybe if they start, I don't think this happens. If they started 0-7, I think it's impossible with the players you've got. But if you did have like a,
you're praying for that to happen. I can see it. 0-7 happens. Well, 0-7. Funny enough, we play 7 games before we play the Dolphins at first. So you would have us going into Miami at 0-7 if on the 1st of November if that was the way.
God, yeah, that would be something. I will say. But I'm looking at we play you in. It looks like. It will be the week before the Madrid game. I thought maybe it might be on that weekend in Madrid. That could have been quite a nice way to end the day after Madrid. You're going to the game and then we could have watched it in a bar somewhere. But
I'm flying in and out, and I'm doing what you did do in Melbourne. I'm flying home the same day in Madrid, so I'm watching the game. I'm going to watch Joe Burrow pulverize the Falcons and then head straight back to the airport. So, so that should be good crack.
Well, great. And speaking of good crack, no, that's not going to be a good segue. I was trying to think of a second segue to bring in the schedule, but
well, you said that. Speaking of good crack, can the Patriots have a crack at the AFC East again? It's in there somewhere. I could see you grabbing for it. It's almost like when you at the end of the Crystal Maze and you're grabbing for the golden tickets. I could see you there.
Well, let's head into win, loss, or tie. So for those of you that aren't familiar with this segment of the show, each fan that turns up on the show will try and predict their team's end-of-season record by going through each game and answering with the simple answer of win, loss or tie. Now, week 1, season opener in the NFL, which is a tradition in the NFL to have the winners host the season opener on the first game of the season. But a bit of history, it's the first time it's on a Wednesday. And also will be just the 3rd time in NFL history, the NFL season opener will be a repeat of the previous Super Bowl. It happened 10 years ago with Panthers against Broncos. It's happening this season and then happened all the way back in 1970 when the Vikings and Chiefs opened up the season after playing in Super Bowl 4. Shane, for this one, at Lumen Field, win, loss or tie?
Win. Come on. You're saying that the Patriots haven't been stewing all offseason on this, stewing about how the Seahawks on the biggest day pulverized their offensive line, wondering about whether Drake Maye would be able to stand up for more than 3 seconds at a time, and they'd be plotting every little way to spoil their banner-raising night and prove to the world that they've improved as a squad. I mean, from the Patriots' point of view, this is perfect. This is exactly the kind of motivation they need to say, the offseason, any offseason stuff, what we've done in progress, we need to go in and start this game with revenge. And historically speaking, I don't think the reigning champions have a very good record on those week 1 games. A lot of the times they kind of, there's almost like the glory and sort of reflecting on their previous experience. Maybe the other team, if they come in with a very singular focus and energy, they can come and wreck house. And I think the Patriots can definitely do that.
Well, according to my Google research, the defending champions are 13-5 in opening kickoff games. Now, I will say There's been a few teams in recent times, like the Chiefs lost in 2023.
I was just going to say, I think maybe the Chiefs against the Lions is probably in my head too much because I remember that how brilliant that game was. In my head, that the Patriots are playing the role of Detroit there, as being the gritty underdogs to go and take down the champs. Only in this case, it's personal.
And I will say as well, one of the times a team did lose as champions was the last time we had a repeat of the Super Bowl when the Broncos beat the Panthers 21-20. So there's that hope as well that you'll be able to do what the Broncos did and get revenge on their Super Bowl loss. Week 2, though, is your home opener, and you face a home game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Win, because I don't really believe in the Steelers, and this Aaron Rodgers geriatric tour can't go on much longer. Now, I say that. I remember last year looking at this one, and I think the Patriots played the Steelers in week 3, the week before the Steelers came to Dublin, and it was a game that the Patriots were better, but the Steelers got scores off turnovers and were very opportunistic. And I think that they're just because it's not the first season of Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniel, that they're a bit more of a well-oiled machine. And the fact that they'll have a couple of extra days rest because, like you said, they're playing the Wednesday night game in week 1 before going into week 2, I think they'll be in good form against the Steelers team and will be able to take care of business.
Well, then week 3, you're traveling to Florida and taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think the Jags win this one, and I think the Jags are going to win this one by a good bit. This Jaguars team is exceptionally talented, and I think they're playing with just enough of a chip in the shoulder in terms of the respect that they've been getting off around the league. And I think when the AFC champions are coming into their house in what's still going to be very humid at the end of September in Jacksonville, I think the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are going to win that game. I think the Jaguars win it.
Well, week 4, you're staying on the road, but this time facing your first division game of the season. You travel to the brand new Highmark Stadium.
Well, can the Patriots get their time in the new stadium off to a high mark? I don't think so. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be an improved outfit this year. I think this game's going to be very close either way. I think the chance it goes to overtime. It's weird that I'm saying that so far out when so many things can happen between now and the 4th of October. But no, I think looking at it now, I think the Bills are in good shape to win that game. At the moment, it's a 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff. It's not a primetime game, which probably helps Buffalo in that way. I think there's going to be an immense pride in Buffalo and not letting the Patriots get the scalp in their first visit there, because we know how much they hate the Patriots. So, yeah, I don't think the Patriots are going to come away with that one with a win. I just think that Josh Allen and co are going to be too good for that game. And it's going to be a crucial one for the Patriots as well. But I think it's going to be tough.
Well, I love that play on words. That is a journalist in you, getting off to a high mark.
I may have stolen it from one of my Irish NFL show colleagues, but hey, I will happily recycle it.
Well, week 5, you are back at home, but this time taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and of course, albeit off the field, but your former quarterback Tom Brady.
Yeah, it is. It's just the first time ever that a team. Well, apart from last year when the Raiders came into New England in week 1, and the Raiders won in what was a really, really weird week 1 game, in a way that week 1 games can often be weird, which is why I'm glad that we're playing the Seahawks in week 1 in a way that makes it less weird, because it's such a singular focus on getting revenge. Whereas I feel like if the Patriots are playing against Raiders in week 1 again this year, I'd be like, oh no, we're losing that one. It just seems too slippery. But it's the first time, or the only time, that the team who are hosting has a statue of the opponent's owners outside of the stadium. It's a bizarre existence. But no, I think the Patriots win this one, particularly if in this scenario that I'm building off the back of losing to the Bills. I don't think they make a mistake against a Raiders team who are still building. Now, that said, we were talking earlier about offensive line and sack counts. Max Crosby, if he's still in a Raiders uniform, I think is going to try and have a field day and try to make him put himself. So still before the trade deadline, so he could be putting himself in the shop window for getting somewhere good. But no, I think the Patriots take care of business here.
And then sticking on to week 6, sticking at home, you're facing the Jets.
Even if I actually thought the Jets would win, I would never say it out loud. I would never predict that the New York Jets will beat the New England Patriots. You know what I mean? It's like predicting that San Marino can beat France in the World Cup. You know what I mean? It's just It doesn't happen. It never happens. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen here either. So, yeah, Patriots whack the Jets.
Well, love that. Well, I say love it. I don't want either team winning, but I think I don't know what I kind of think who I think I asked this actually to you guys when we were in London about which division rival would you want to see lead, or which if you had to pick one team to win the Super Bowl who was in your division that was in your team. I think I said the Patriots just because I've seen them win 6 before. Well, not 6, but I've seen them win a lot before in my time watching the sport. It's another one's not going to hurt, but I think it's that thing where the Jets and Bills is that bragging rights over them, thinking they've not won one or you won one more recently than them. So yeah, I don't think I could.
Yeah, there is a thing like I mean, if the Bills won, then we could say that the AFC East is one of only 2 divisions where all 4 clubs have won a Super Bowl. There is also, I mean, I think Josh Allen individually deserves at least a shot at the Super Bowl, and that's fair. But as the lucky few who will probably be there, being there for when the Bills win the Super Bowl would be something you'd be telling your grandkids about, you know. So I think from that respect. But also, I know more Jets fans and Dolphins fans, and I don't want to listen to them. I don't know many Buffalo Bills fans. But I know there are plenty of people who live in particularly Western Massachusetts, which is on the border of upstate New York, who would hate the idea of the Bills. Because, I mean, the nature of that rivalry is so, like, if you go to one of the games or talk to them, it is quite bitter in a way that isn't really the case with the Dolphins because geographically they're so far away. But obviously, Boston, New York, and Miami as cities are quite linked, even though Miami is miles off. But yeah, no, I'd probably say the Bills out of those 3. Never the Jets. Absolutely never the Jets. Ever. And I say that knowing full well the Jets have been great to Ireland. I've done work with the Jets. They put on some great leagues. The Jets, front office, great guys. Love them. Very much in favour of the work that they're doing in the UK and Ireland. And great to see them continued continue coming over. But on the field, I hope they go 0-17 every single year. That's just the nature of rivalries, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I think I'd have the Bills over that because I've made friends who are in Buffalo. But yeah, the Jets.
In fairness, you were saying that. Well, do you have a personal experience of people in Buffalo were quite helpful and quite nice?
Yeah,
which just isn't the case in a lot of the United States. There's a lot of regions that tend to have people who aren't particularly helpful or nice. And it's when you see nice people win, you don't really. That's why I didn't really mind when the Seahawks won. I like people from Seattle, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I love Seattle. I'd love to go back. Week 7, going to Chicago and going to Soldier Field and taking on the Hammond Indiana Bears.
The Hammond Indiana Bears. God, that would be depressing if it happened. One of the best things about Soldier Field is that it's in downtown, you know. Baseball is the only sport, well, outdoor sport in America that understands that downtown stadiums are better. But no, in terms of what's happening in the field, I'm quite high in Ben Johnson's abilities and quite high in Caleb Williams' abilities. The NFC North is going to be such a grueling battle between the different clubs that are playing each other. But I think that by the time the Patriots come into this game, they're going to be against a Bears team who will just be determined to stay on top of their division. And I don't think fundamentally the Bears are a better team than the Patriots. So that's why I think the Bears are going to win.
Here we go. Week 8. Our 2 teams collide as we host yourselves, the Dolphins, at Hard Rock Stadium.
Can we say tie just to be friends? No, I'm not saying that. I don't think the Patriots have tied the games in 2014. So, now I'm going to say the Patriots win this because I just don't know what to expect from Malik Willis by the time we get to November. Like, is he still going to be the quarterback, or do they end up trying to move on to something else? Like, it's an unusual. The unusual nature of the rebuild in South Florida at the moment. Like at what point did they decide just to flick the switch and tank for Arch Manning? I don't know. So I just think the Patriots, who don't have the best record playing in Hard Rock Stadium, in fairness, but I don't think they're going to find Hard Rock a hard place.
To be fair though, I do think Willie could ball out and still lose loads of games. I think that defense is so concerning, especially the secondary. I've said this before. The thought of us playing the Bengals and having Storm Duck against Jamar Chase is really worrying. Just because I think that secondary is such an issue. I fear so much that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I think Willie can still play well and we still lose games. That's kind of the ideal situation if you want to tank, is if you've got A-Chain and Malik Willis balling out, but you're still losing games. I can see us scoring 20 points and conceding 30 in a lot of games. I think we could easily see that. But no, I don't believe. I think, well, we had a Dolphins preview released about a week ago now, and me, Sam, and Mark combined for a 4-12-1 record. So not too much optimism there. And I don't believe. Maybe
What was the tie?
That was. I actually can't remember. I think Sam, because we kind of alternated each week, and I think Sam it was who put our game in week 18 as a tie, the final game of the season. But no,
against the Bills, is it?
Yeah, I think it's against you. Yeah,
no, it is against the Dolphins, right?
Right. Yeah. But I'm not too confident. I think the three worst teams in the league are going to be in the AFC East, in my opinion. But week 9 now, going from the AFC East to NFC North, I should say, taking on the Packers at home.
This is a difficult one because I think both of these teams are going to be at a similar level by the time we get to this game. I think it could be very close. It's box office. Do I think the Packers will have enough to do it? It really depends on the bit I'm worried about. This is exactly the time of year when Micah Parsons starts coming back into the fray and starts playing more games. And we're talking about offensive line issues. I mean, there you go, Mark. There you go, Micah. Go on. Right the gaff. So I think the Packers by a hair, by a smidgen, but I'll probably give them that one.
Well, before your Week 11 bye, you face a trip to Michigan and you take on the Detroit Lions.
We don't face a trip to Michigan. We face a trip to Munich to play the Detroit Lions. Yeah. Of course. And that is why I think the Patriots will win. I think if this was in Michigan, it would have been a tough task because the Lions are actually. Have you seen the Lions' schedule? It's ridiculous. Like they might as well be playing kindergarten every year. It's the Lions this year. Like the teams they play against and their strength of schedule is, apart from their own division, is ridiculous. They even like because they finished fourth in the division, the NFC West team they get to face against in the way that they have to play against somebody who finished in the same level of them is Arizona Cardinals. They don't have to play against the Niners, Rams, or Seahawks. So I don't know. This is as a coming into Germany, we know there's a big Patriots fan base there. They bloody well always won after what happened in Frankfurt a couple of years ago. The most boring game in NFL history between the Colts and the Patriots. That was the moment. And Ben Kernan says this of NBC Boston. That was the moment that Robert Kraft said, well, I need to get rid of this Bill Belichick guy. So, and the following year in Wembley, they didn't play much better either. So I think the Patriots are going to come out with this one firing against Amon-Ra St. Brown, shut him down, and get this a good win here after what would, if we're going by our current predictions, be a tricky defeat to the Packers.
Yeah, that one's going to be good. And I don't know why I completely forgot, because I've printed out all the schedule for every team, and I've printed off, and they have the date and time, and even the network has been on. But for some reason, the Patriots one is just showing the fixtures, so I completely forgot about them playing in Germany.
Yeah, I think Fox is doing that game as well, which should be interesting.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, there was a game
or CBS. I think it's Fox. Yeah,
there was a game on years ago. I think it was Steelers Vikings in London that had Jim Nantz was doing the commentary, and that is pretty special.
CBS used to do the international games before NFL Network kind of took over from it, so it was an unusual one. I think CBS are doing the Brazil game, and Fox are doing the Germany game, and the rest are on NFL Network, I think.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, yeah, he's going to be someone who's going to be well up for it, of course. If those who don't know, he is a German speaker. His mum is a German native, so he's going to also be the poster boy of this game. You're going to see his jersey, I think, more than anyone else in the stadium. Maybe Sebastian Vollmer's might be high, but no, I think certainly St. Brown's going to be the most worn jersey in that stadium. And yeah, looking forward to that. And I'm sure you're looking forward to quite a lot. Getting to see your team,
I can't wait because I've been dying to see this Lions team in the flesh. I've never been to Munich, which is a city that's very high on my bucket list. I've never been to the Allianz Arena, which is a stadium very high on my bucket list. So that is, yeah, as much as, we're very lucky people doing this, and that is probably very high on the things I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to both, and I will say, as good as Berlin is and was, Munich, I think as a city is much better. So
Berlin's weird. Berlin is weird. It just is. I like the stadium. Now, I always felt very awkward when I was going to do videos being like, this is such a historic stadium. I'm like, oh, no, wait, it was built for the 1938 Olympics by the Nazis. I probably shouldn't say that. But otherwise, Berlin, the Olympic Stadion, brilliant. looking forward to seeing the games go back there in 2027. But as a city, I just felt it was an unusual place. But in fairness, you can get everywhere by U-Bahn, and the Falcons fans really made that weekend an enjoyable experience.
And they had Christmas markets, which was very good to walk through. Week 11 is your bye, so week 12, you're going to LA, and you're taking on the Los Angeles Chargers.
The Chargers are a difficult one for me to decode, and I can't just assume it'll be some sort of rerun of the game in the playoffs when the Chargers defense really stood up, but the Chargers offense did nothing. And in fairness, the Chargers offense coming with a huge amount of injuries. Are they going to have a lot of injury problems by the time they get to this game? We don't know. What is Mike McDaniel's impact going to be, particularly on the LA run game? We don't know. I'm going to give it to the Patriots as a nod for now, but I think this game is going to be closer than I think some Patriots fans currently anticipate, because the talk of the AFC West are the Denver Broncos, and I think we underestimate how good this Chargers team is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a wide open conference this year, and I think the Chargers, obviously, the one thing they've got to get over is that playoff hub. But certainly, in a regular season, they've been excellent with Herbert there, Jim Harbaugh there. I think there'll be a team that'll be, high up in contention once again in the AFC, playoff rankings and all that jazz. Week 13 is your first home game since week 9, and you're taking on the Bills.
We beat the Bills in this game, I think. Normally, and last year's one in Foxborough was a bit of an outlier, but normally when the Bills come to Foxborough, a lot of the Patriots and just the way they organize things come up to their best level. Again, last year's one was a big outlier in that. But I remember even like last year, Mac Jones, quarterback, his last sort of great moments was his brilliant game he played against the Bills at home. In his last year, a fantastic victory. And I just think that, at this point, both of these teams will be gunning for the divisional title. This would be a huge, huge game in the context of the season. I imagine at this point the Bills might have an edge in the Patriots. So the Patriots will probably come into this with a greater need and a greater greed, and I think they'll go and get the job done.
Well, sticking at home for week 14, you face a home game against the Minnesota Vikings.
Another incredibly difficult team to read as well. And the Brian Flores defense, I think, matched up very well against what the Patriots are trying to do on offense. The reason why I'm going to give this one to the Patriots, though, is because I just think that by the time we get here, that we would have already seen a bit of quarterback hokey-cokey with the Vikings. And I just don't know how well oiled they'll be on offense. And who knows what other injuries they might have had on offense as well. I mean, do we get to a point where Justin Jefferson is getting just frustrated at not having a consistent quarterback play in terms of who is throwing to one of, not the best wide receiver in the NFL? And he's coming to December thinking about, what do I need to do to try and win a Super Bowl before my career ends? That's kind of the way I see the Vikings season unfolding, and that means by the time we get to this game, I think it's a win for the Patriots.
So going to week 15, you're taking a trip to Arrowhead and taking on the Chiefs.
I love this matchup, mainly because the first ever game I watched as live, as in full, of American football was a Monday Night Football game between the Chiefs and the Patriots in 2014, when the Chiefs beat the Patriots 41-14. In a season that I think Belichick ended up going to win the Super Bowl anyway. And of course, the big question is, we haven't had an AFC Championship game without either of these teams since 2013, is it? The last time that we've had an AFC Championship game?
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking 2015, Broncos won the AFC, but they beat the Patriots,
they
right?
They beat the Patriots. Yeah. That game still hurts. Should it hurt? The last time that neither of these teams played in an AFC Championship game was when the Steelers played the Jets in the 2010 season. Since then, either the Patriots or the Chiefs have taken part in the AFC Championship game. So, huge amount of pedigree coming into this. I think the Chiefs are on for a good year this year, and a lot of people don't seem to fully believe that. And I noticed the Patrick Mahomes injury and just the way that a lot of things didn't fully fall the way last year. And then there's the Travis Kelce coming back from his wedding, obviously looking quite unfit, must be said. But I think the Chiefs are going to be good at this time, and I'm probably going to back the Chiefs to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, I don't think have ever really. Well, same as you guys, have never really been bothered about starting off well. It's often about how you finish. I think if they can go into the start of the season, I don't know, they start 4-3, 5-3, let's say 6-5, 6-4. I think they'll be primed to make a good end of season run. I think the problem they had last year is that they didn't have a good start and they were well worse than 500, and they just didn't really capitalize on that. But I just feel like the Chiefs have an easier schedule. That I think Mahomes will come back, and I don't think it'll take. I think it'll take him a few weeks to get into it. But I think come to this point in the year, week 15, home to the Patriots, I think he'll be back to being somewhat the player we all know before. And he's won Super Bowls before with subpar receivers, so I think he's shown in his career that he can make it work with anyone really. And obviously Kelsey's not the same anymore, but I think I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl, but I think I can see him being back in the playoffs and win.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, my preseason prediction, which hasn't come out yet, so this is a bit of an exclusive. I'm predicting the Rams to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and for the Rams to win. I think the Chiefs are going to be on a very good run this year. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to come hot at the right time. Like, if this game was in September or October, I might be giving the Patriots more of a chance. For a primetime game in the lead up to Christmas in Arrowhead Stadium, the Chiefs aren't losing that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, there's nothing, I don't think many more things more fearsome in the NFL as a team is when you get to Arrowhead late on in the season and you hear that's the song they play at the start of the game, and and you see Mahomes there throwing the ball, warming up. That is a scary sight, and I think people forget that he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time MVP. You're not a bad quarterback overnight. It's just one bad year, and I think we'll have this year as the year off. The Patriots had it. Tom Brady was injured for a whole season, and within a few years they were reaching Super Bowls again, winning Super Bowls. So I think, it might have been a bad year, but people forget that the year before.
I think a lot of the talking the Chiefs down is the people in the media either not wanting to talk, either being sick of the Chiefs because they've been in the media so much because A, they play good and B, the whole Taylor Swift thing, or just they're a mixture of recency bias plus everybody wants to be the first one to declare the dynasty to be dead, and it isn't. It's still alive, and I still think they've got plenty kicking in them. So,
yeah, and just ask Max Kettleman how it feels to write someone off and call them finished when as he found out with Tom Brady all those years ago. Moving on to week 16, your final road game of the regular season. You take a trip to MetLife and take on the Jets.
Not only the Patriots going to win this one, but I think there's going to be a half-empty MetLife Stadium, which is going to make it even more fun on Christmas week. Patriots win by 28.
Okay. So then, week 17 is a rematch of last season's AFC Championship, but this time in Foxborough as you host the Broncos.
Where is everybody going with this all of a sudden belief or assumption that the Denver Broncos are going to win the AFC or somehow be this incredible, unstoppable force? Did anybody not watch them last season and how they got away with it against the Giants, got away with it against the Eagles, got away with it against the Bills to a certain extent in their postseason? Like, this Broncos squad, what have they really done to upgrade it? A great trade for Jalen Waddle, in fairness, which I think was a good move on their part. But I mean, you look at what they've done. J.K. Dobbins, incredibly injury prone. If he gets injured, they've no running game to fall back on. Bo Nix, everyone's saying Bo Nix the best quarterback in the AFC. He's the third best quarterback in the AFC West. Why is everybody sitting back on this? And I just think that by the time we get to here, the Broncos are going to be falling flat, struggling for a 9-8, maybe wildcard spot, and the Patriots will prove themselves to just be a better team and a better squad. So all this hype around the Broncos is just, I don't understand it. They were the biggest frauds last year. And I know I'm saying that as a Patriots fan, considering the schedule helped us, and we only bet the Broncos in the worst AFC Championship game in history because they're playing Jarrett Stidham as quarterback. Regardless, how they got there was ridiculous. It was unbelievable how far they got into the season before eventually somebody was able to knock them out. It was just, Patriots are winning this one, and they're winning it by a considerable amount.
I will say I think they would have beaten you if they had Bo Nix. In my opinion, I just think I'm a big Benito fan, Patrick fan, and Sean Payton and all that. I just think that the defense alone, I think, might have won in that game, or just I think that defense will be the key to this season. But then you also got Courtland Sutton and Jalen Waddle as a receiver duo. I think that is quite a good WR1 WR2 combo.
Yeah, look, it'd be interesting to see once we get going. But yeah, I still think that even if the Broncos are even close to as good as a lot of people are expecting, I think the Patriots are going to have enough in the tank to win this game.
Well, then the final game is against the Dolphins at Foxborough for the final time in this episode, Shane. Win, lose, or tie?
I think because the Patriots have to play most of their starters, because they'll be trying to gun for an AFC East title, which I think will end up falling towards the Bills over the course of the season. They will be gunning for this game in a way that doesn't always happen in Week 18. For that reason, I think they're going to beat the Dolphins.
I'm hoping for some sort of kind of rerun of when we played you in the 2019 season, when Mike Gesicki scored the winning touchdown at Foxborough for our first win in years in that stadium, and it stopped you being an automatic bye in the playoffs. What happened the next game? Titans beat you. Tom Brady's out the door. So, that game always brings back good memories for me. Patriots, Dolphins at Foxborough. Easily my favourite ever Dolphins game. Easily.
Yeah. Sky, my co-host on Pats Pals Podcast, can't stand whenever the Dolphins fans mention that game. So I just find it very funny. It's like, they're always banging on about this. I'm like, it was a good win for them in fairness. We kind of, it wasn't great for us. So I think the context of this year is going to be a bit different though. I mean, like, at that point, will you prefer that we beat you and you get a better draft pick for the quarterback of the future? We don't know with the Dolphins, unfortunately. That's just kind of like they're in the way that we know the Cardinals are going to be bad, and we know that the Rams are going to be good. The Dolphins are a team that are on the bad end of the scale, but we just don't know what they're really going to show up with. In a way that the Saints, we thought were going to be absolutely terrible last year, and then won 4 games in December and had a decent enough end of the year. So we don't know what to fully expect from Green Bay South as it's almost becoming when you see all the front office people who have gone down to Miami.
Yeah,
What's the record there? I haven't been keeping track. What did I predict?
You predicted. I think I've done the maths wrong here. Hang on a second. So I got 11-5, but that's not right, is it? I missed the game here. So 2-2. This isn't right. So 7, 8.
I can tell you the losses. I picked 1, 2, 3.
Because I had the first 2 games wins, Steelers, Seahawks. I had you losing to the Jags 2-1.
Yeah, I picked 5 losses. I said we lose to the Jags, lose to the Bills, lose to the Bears, lose to the Packers.
Oh, I see what I've done. So I ripped the result of the Jets game so big that it covered the Broncos game, and in my mind I had it down that I'd written both. So that's 12-5 you're predicting.
Well, I mean, it won't be that. There will be a couple more losses in there. I'm probably coming to this with a bit of confidence. I'm looking at, the Chargers game, potentially the Vikings game, potentially the Steelers, as a couple of close ones. Even the Dolphins in the 1st of November could be interesting as well. So look, it won't be 12-5. It just won't. But I would be happy if it was.
I'm sure you will. I'll take 5 wins. That is the end of the show for today, our New England Patriots season preview. First of all, Shane, a massive thank you for coming on today.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. I've had fun. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a different hemisphere. Should we go crack?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm guessing, same as me, your first time in Australia ever?
It is. Yeah. Potentially last as well, but maybe not. Who knows? So it'll be an interesting time to see it.
Yeah, it'll be good to experience that, and good to see you in what will be basically a month and a day from time of recording. The game's on the 10th of August, and that point, 8th or 9th will probably be a practice session for the Niners in that period. So yeah, basically I'll be seeing you in a month's time, which is it's going to fly by.
It's getting close. We can feel it. I can smell the red zone coming around the corner. It's it's better than Christmas.
It might actually be. Oh, actually, apart from NFL on Christmas Day, that is maybe the best. Before we do go, actually, Shane, I want to give you a chance just to tell the audience, first of all, where they can find on socials, the Irish NFL Show and Pat's Pals, but also what you're looking forward to the next few months, or what you've got coming on the show.
Yeah, well, the main thing we're working is the Irish NFL Show. Pat's Pals, we're not 100% sure what we're doing with it this year. It's been more of a social media thing. It's at Pat's Pals Podcast if you want to look at it. But most of my work is with the Irish NFL Show. It's at Irish NFL Show on Instagram for anybody who wants to keep an eye on it. Don't worry, you don't have to be Irish to listen to us. Believe it or not, our third biggest audience are people from Vietnam. We have more people listening in Vietnam than the United Kingdom, and we're trying to change that. People from the United Kingdom, you are welcome in to listen to us because we got a big team where our team is growing even bigger again. We don't have an Irish game to look forward to, but we have a huge amount of great stuff to plan out, and I'm just looking forward to football being back. We get to a point in the summer where I'm enjoying the summer, and then we get to a point in the summer where I'm just impatient and I wanted to come back, and I'm looking forward to getting the full cut and thrust of doing, even if it is doing the 5, 6, 7 podcasts a week that we do with the Irish NFL Show. I don't care. I'm just happy to get back into the swing of things.
You know what? I'm the same to you. I just can't wait. Pre-season, I don't really care about. So kind of for me, there's still a month left before we can really get excited about NFL football. And if I'm honest, I think week 1, I might be so tired from both the flight back from Australia and also the wedding that I might struggle. I've got work off for half this. My plan is basically I'm going to try and watch Red Zone as much as I can on Sunday, and then Monday morning I might watch the rest. But I think for me, week 2 is where I'm going to get really excited. I think I'm going to be too tired for week 1, but certainly week 2, I think that for me is going to be like a great weekend leading up to it. But no, great to have you on, Shane. This has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our New England Patriots season preview. I have been, as ever today, your host, Andy Davis, with our guest in the Irish NFL Show and Pat's Pals podcasts, Shane Brennan. And we'll see you guys for our next team season preview. Take care.